Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Barcelona versus Bayern Munich in the Champions League. I was actually planning on making a Sevilla video on the second half of the game, but I feel like you guys had too many questions asking about Barcelona versus Bayern Munich. We're going to do it differently. We're going to go through game by game and seeing some very key tactics and stuff that we see from Bayern Munich so far this season. As always, guys, please do subscribe to the channel. It's going to help us a lot to get this family to go bigger. We upload weekly Barcelona content only. So let's dive right into this video. Bayern Munich does seem to have a very weird 2-4-4 situation in the build-up phase with a lot of movement on each side of the wings, with Musiala and Kane often pinning back the centre-backs while there's so many movement, and this tend to keep the opposition extremely narrow, where the fullbacks would receive the ball in these areas where they would look to build up. We saw a very unusual tactic where Musiala is dropping even as far as the centre-backs to get on the ball, where his excellent dribbling skills and press resistance is used. But we also saw the downside of this tactic where if the opposition could mark him perfectly and get the ball off of him, Bayern would instantly be 3-on-2 in the phase over there. And in the case where Musiala was dropping, you saw that Olise is often coming from the right wing, inverting, drawing the position narrow, and that creates an opening for the fullbacks to actually overlap. This is a great tactic from Kompany because Musiala in essence is going to drop all the way from the 10th position, even as deep as the centre-back, right? And who's going to pick him up? Is somebody going to follow him, leaving space elsewhere? The downside to this tactic, however, is that Jamal has to be perfect, because one misplaced pass or a second that he holds on too long to the ball could easily put Bayern in 3-on-2 situations. Now, Ulm is not a high-pressing side, and they were able to do this, right? So it's really dangerous, especially Barcelona would finish them in these situations as well. And one thing I do have to mention here is that Olise is very, very dangerous in one-on-one situations. So I might think that we need to keep Balde a little bit back, because this guy is super dangerous in one-on-one situations, and he also inverts, especially when Musiala goes a little bit deeper. He inverts into that space, right? However, he hardly ever returns to his space once he inverts, right? He runs onto the position with Kane, where the fullback is actually going around and actually keeping the width for Bayern. So very stressful tactics to deal with. I think there's a reason why Kompany actually has Musiala dropping so deep, and in this game he was actually even dropping as far as being like a centre back in the situation. And this problem is actually the fullbacks. I think, in my opinion, they are the weak links, and that is why Jamal has to drop deep, because often in this game you saw that they were turned over and robbed of the ball. I don't think Kompany has faith in his fullbacks, because why else would Musiala drop so deep, right? Look at, he's literally in the centre-back position. And the fullbacks often got turned over in this game. I think it's Wolfsburg, right, that would actually rob them. And imagine if Rafinha and Lamine Yamal is running onto those guys, turning the ball over so high up the pitch. And Wolfsburg could score. Wolfsburg scored in this game because of that tactic, right? So the fullbacks are definitely the weak links in the half spaces, because they don't have the quality, I think, that Kompany wants them in order to build up from the back and actually influence the game as a whole. So Jamal has to drop deep in this instance. And because of this, Kompany actually changed his tactic. Jamal was naturally deeper, and now he had the wingers inverting with the fullbacks keeping the width. And with Kane dropping as well, this created problems where you had Gnabry and the other winger running ahead of him. The average positioning of Bayern actually shows us this, where the wingers are inverted into the half space, where Musiala is closer to Pavlovic and Kimmich, where the fullbacks are keeping the width. Kompany actually deserves credit for the winning goal that Bayern scored in this instance, because you can see Musiala was now in his natural position in the midfield, where you would actually see Harry Kane dropping closer, drawing two players at once, while the wider player is now actually in on goal. So he deserves a lot of credit for that winning goal that Bayern scored against Wolfsburg. Against Kiel, we saw that Musiala didn't drop. I don't think he needed to, right? And now you could see him finding the space in between the lines, because the line of four in front of the centre-backs were drawing players out of position. And he was pretty electrifying in this game, rounding and just dribbling past players and just be electrifying, right? And do not forget the opposition had to watch Kane as well. And Gnabry found a lot of space. So did Musiala and Olise as well. you can see with the average positioning that both winger and fullback is in the half space for Bayern with their 2-4-4 shape. We also got a glimpse of their pressing shape where Gnabry was joining Harry Kane to press the centre backs, where you saw that Jamal Musiala was actually following the deep lying pivot even if he went all the way into the box. That would leave open the left back, but we saw that the fullback was tasked to actually come up high and press the fullback as well. So Bayern like to have a man-to-man situation, but Barcelona's pivot would easily get around this, I think. I do think that Kane's involvement in the press is going to be interesting because he's not the fastest, right? So I don't think he will be too much trouble, and I think this is why Flick actually protects Lewandowski in this instance. But you see that Musiala was following the deep-lying playmaker or the pivot in order to block him, and that actually opened the gateway for Gnabry to actually go and get the ball off of him. And Kane did shot like first time. So Barcelona and Bayern have a very similar pressing structure, but I do think ours will be more effective. Against Eintracht Frankfurt, we saw that Dayot Upamecano actually had a horror show, and this is something we should look at. Getting the ball off of him, because many times he's very indecisive, right? So he costed Bayern, but also Olise, man, I cannot emphasize more how important this guy is going to be for Bayern, especially in that half space, the way he turns himself inside out and actually get the ball away. And he scored a cracker just off of the edge of the box. So I don't think he's going to stay wide and just do one-on-one situations. No, that guy's going to come into the half space and be dangerous as well. Against Stuttgart, it was actually the Harry Kane show. He once again showed how great he is at holding up the ball and actually playing off of the guys that's running ahead of him, right? Where he was taking a first-time shot from the edge of the box and he scored a goal. So Harry Kane is another guy that we are going to have to keep an eye on. And I genuinely fear that he's going to have too much experience for our centre backs, right? And one thing that stood out when I was watching the game is the late arrivals from the midfielders, especially even in transition. The midfielders do arrive very late. And if the first attack breaks down, they could score the second one as well. Now against Aston Villa, I noticed something very, very interesting is the way that after 70 minutes, Bayern, their tank is empty. I don't think they have the same stamina as they had under Hansi Flick himself and also maybe Julian Nagelsmann. And lapses in concentration actually happens after the 70th minute for Bayern Munich. And Villa actually exposed this and they scored a very good goal. So if Barcelona can actually play throughout the whole game and don't drop their level, we can actually annihilate these guys and just be great against them and just score goals, right? So the stamina might not be the same for Bayern this time. But something that stands out is the shape of Kompany in possession, where you have two center backs, a bank of 4 midfielders and a bank of 4 attackers. So it's almost like a 4-4-2 backwards. But let me know, what do you think, guys, down in the comment section. I do realize, and I often see this, that you guys have very different thoughts, or you might see something very different. This is just what I saw from Bayern Munich. Let me know, what do you think, the tactics that we need to maybe look at and what Flick needs to avoid, you know, maybe put out your lineups and everything. But it will be interesting to hear, what do you guys think. As always, guys, please do subscribe to the channel. It's going to help us a lot to get this family to grow bigger. We upload weekly Barcelona content. So very excited to see. I might go live tomorrow.